Hello, and thank you so much for taking the time out to listen. Today, I'm talking about oppositional defiant disorder. For some of you all, you don't know what that is, but for others, you know because you might live with it, whether it is you or somebody that you know who has it. Basically, this is persistent bad moods. These are people who are angry regularly, okay? They often lose their temper. They're arguing with family and coworkers. They defy or refuse to comply with any type of rules, regulations, laws, even your own personal boundaries that you might establish. Oh, they're going to look for a way to defy those as well. They ignore people as well as annoy people because they don't want to believe that they have an issue. So I'm going to ignore you because, well, I'm not going to take full responsibility for behaving like a complete fool one day, right? They blame other people for their mistakes, for their behaviors. They are just angry and resentful. Some individuals have reached out to me and asked me, why is so-and-so so angry? Okay. I don't understand. Some of us in the Black community, for instance, will say, well, it's because the man and all the stuff that's going on with the president in the office. And so some people feel frustrated. Nah, with these people, that's not what the deal is. Oppositional defiant disorder in adults shows up just like it does in teens. Okay, they're spiteful and they are vindictive types of people. And if you take a look at attitude.mag.com, you will see it all spelled out, this particular disorder. And I'm going to quote from this particular reference as well as others. These adults with ODD, oppositional defiant disorder, they feel mad at the world and they lose their temper regularly. This may manifest as verbal abuse or road rage, okay? Adults with ODD defend themselves relentlessly when someone says they've done something wrong, okay? So let us think of a situation where we had to talk to someone about something that they did that was incorrect. You didn't say it in a nasty, mean-spirited sort of way, but what they did was still incorrect. They didn't follow instructions or they misunderstood you. And rather than be compliant, acknowledge, take full responsibility, oh no, they're going to defend themselves even in the wrong. There's constant opposition to authority figures, makes it difficult for adults with ODD to keep jobs, okay? So they may have even told their share of stories as to why they lost their job. But in the end, we can all go back to ODD with some of these people, okay? They also find that it's hard to maintain relationships and marriages when they are constantly mad at the world. So why would I stay with a person who every time I turn around, they have some type of issue with someone about something? Okay. They are particularly quick to anger. They are impatient people. Okay. And they have a low tolerance for frustration. So when you are at home or at the workplace or what have you, and this sort of thing goes on, what is your natural response to ask a person what their problem is? Is there something wrong? Do you want to discuss this? Why are you angry often? And you know a person who is feeling this way, but yet they don't want you to know about it. They're going to deny. They're going to say, I'm not argumentative. I'm not angry. I'm not hostile. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm fine. I'm good. It's you, right? They got to shift the blame. So they're in denial. They're going to shift the blame and they're not going to acknowledge the fact that they do have a personality disorder, which is called, once again, oppositional defiant disorder. And it shows up in adults. We can see this with teenagers that are constantly angry and lashing out and doing things in school and acting up. But a lot of times adults can't see this sort of thing with adults. So these people, they have to win arguments. Okay, they have to, just like they probably were like this when they were teenagers. I've got to get the last word in, even though my mother and my father said otherwise. Okay, they told me to be quiet. Nope, I got to say this. I got to say that. They grow up to be adults that act like this. They will say things like, oh, it's the man who has me down. It's because I can't get ahead due to, and then they have a long list, and they will have their share of prejudices and inferiority complexes and claim that other people are trying to get one up on them. It's a lot. And they're angry. Okay, that's the key. They are often angry, and sometimes they don't even know why. They got a look on their face that says they're angry, and they'll say, no, I'm good. Your face says otherwise. These people who like to fight up against order, systems, regulations, or just simply they don't care too much about getting along with people. It's about what makes me feel good. If I want to put this item right here, I'm going to put it right here, even though I know it's going to annoy you, even though I know you're going to say something. But I want to put it right here, and I'm going to do it right now, and I don't care what you say. Okay? Now, you know that's going to cause a future problem, says somebody in the household, or their own conscience, or even God himself. But I'm going to do it because I'm going to do it. You see, annoying people, they're not trying to work with you. Okay. Some of these people have been involved with the police, whether in the past or present. They've been in their share of fights, whether it's at the bar, whether it is on the street somewhere, standing in line, or getting out their car ready to pop the trunk. Okay. It's the littlest of things that can set them off. Oh, what are you doing over there talking to that man? Huh? What? I'm not talking to no. Yes, you are. What are y'all talking about? Okay. This sort of thing shows up at work. It's not just about in the intimate relationship or with their mother or their father or their sister or what have you, who they may describe them as, oh, he's just like that. No, there's something else going on with them. Or, oh, she's just weird. She's strange. She tends to be, one of those whats. I can't get into some of the words that these people will call their relatives. But at the end of the day, it's not good. And they pretty much have accepted it. But you may not have accepted it and don't want to stay in this sort of connection or relationship or partnership. At work, it shows up when they're always having an issue with their coworkers, with the manager, the supervisor, the leader, the business owner. Okay. They feel like they don't have to follow the rules. Okay. They feel like it just keeps them from creatively growing. Or whatever excuse they come up with. They will do stuff that irritates their coworkers. Okay. If you say that I don't like you putting this here, or please stop taking stuff from my desk, or could you be more selective about the food that you're eating, or it could be anything. They are going to defy what you say, what the rules say. Okay. And Human Resources has been known to get involved with these folks who have ODD. And of course, they're going to blame everybody else. They're not going to work with folk, or maybe they will if their livelihood is threatened for a time, and then they're back to their old ways again. Some of these folks have been terminated, contrary to what they have said. They have been terminated from their jobs because they pushed up against authority to the point where authority came up with a way to conveniently get rid of them. At the end of the day, we got to get rid of this one because they just don't seem to understand that there is procedures to follow. And they are going to have to either do it or there's going to be ramifications. And usually people with oppositional defiant disorder, they rather pay the consequences than to obey authority. Okay. These folks have been known to have their share of meltdowns. And I have personally witnessed this sort of thing when there are meetings and conference calls and folks wanting to chit chat about whatever. And if it even sounds a little bit like criticism, here comes World War I, II, and III. They're going to hold up the meeting to try to explain this and explain that and point out your flaws and whatever else they can come up with. Okay. Once again, we're talking about oppositional defiant disorder in adults. Okay. Thank you, Jesus, once again for exposing another personality disorder. Another one that, I'll be honest with you, I did not know what I was fighting up against. Because I've come across a few of these people, thank God, not a lot of them, but I have come across a few of these people with this disorder. Sometimes you see we're attracted to people like this because they remind us of other people. There's some familiarity about what they're saying, what they're doing, how they react rather than respond. And so we go along with being around people like this. Well, the angry person looks tough. The angry person tends to be a bit irritable at times, and then you might be angry at times and you don't mind talking to the irritable person because they're going to go along with what you're saying because you both have your anger issues that are very similar. But sooner or later, two angry people are going to fight each other, whether physically, verbally, or all of the above. Okay? These people are vindictive people. If you speak up about things that bother you, if you point out their wrongs, they are going to figure out a way to either passively, aggressively get back at you, or they'll be just bold about the revenge. Spiritual issues tend to show up with these people with personality disorders. So if they have issue with dealing with human beings, you know they're going to have issue with dealing with the Spirit of the Lord. They can pick up on the Spirit of the Lord in those around them. And they don't want to submit. They don't want to be obedient, okay, to the one true God. We can just move human beings out the way for a minute because we already know they're going to fight up against them. But the Spirit of the Lord is speaking to them, and they are looking for any excuse not to do what it is that God is moving on their spirit to do. So if the Lord speaks to them about going into the next room and forgiving your wife or your husband, nope, I'm not doing it. If the Lord speaks to them in the quiet of the day about being careful about what he or she says to management, to leadership, nope, they're going to continue to fight. Okay, they're going to continue to find fault with. These are negative people. Okay, this sort of thing shows up with parents. Okay, toward their children. Why is dad angry all the time? What is going on with mom? Why is she? And then once you figure some things out, you find out that it's not what you thought it was, but it turns out that it's something that is constant. You see, people with a personality disorder of any sort, it constantly shows up. It's not one of those things that, oh, it's gone today and it'll stay away for a long period of time. No, it shows up again. Everybody who I've come across that has some major personality disorder, they may be okay in the moment, but then it's just a matter of time within that day that they're going to change back into that person that we don't like. Okay. When you see these disorders show up with some of these individuals, okay, whether it is oppositional defiant disorder or something else, you have to be that one that exercises your faith and be in prayer. Okay, that's first and foremost. You also need to be around spiritual counselors as well as people who know something about the disorder to help you get through the issues, okay, that this person may have put upon you. To expect them to change, no. I mean, it would be ideal, but if a person has been like this for 20, 30, 40, 50 plus years, they're not going to change. So you've got to figure out whether or not you want to continue to deal with this person who loses their temper, is touchy, often resentful, angry, just negative, defying, any type of authority figure or rules, or even encouraging other people to do the same. You'll have to make that decision whether or not you want to stick around someone like this. Okay. The blame gets old. Blaming you, blaming the mom, blaming the dad, everybody else for their anger issues. That gets old. You'll get tired of it. And at some point, this is where some individuals will simply separate or divorce if they're in an intimate relationship, or they will leave the job. Okay. Because it's just too much that I'm dealing with. I'm not going to have this man yell at me again, or I'm not going to have this woman come over here and jump up in my face, because I know that I can only take but so much, right? So rather than go to jail or end up 6 feet deep or put somebody 6 feet deep in the ground, you just leave. Okay. Once again, these are the symptoms that you want to look up, or pay close attention to, or do both. The fourth revision of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, now replaced by DSM-5. This is all psychological types of information. Stated that the child, now this is a child, must exhibit 4 out of the 8 signs and symptoms to meet the diagnostic threshold for oppositional defiant disorder. But what's interesting is that the very signs that we see with the children are the signs that we also see in the adults with this disorder. Losing the temper, touchy, easily annoyed, right? As we mentioned, angry, resentful, argues with authority figures as well as others, defies or refuses to comply with requests from authority figures or with rules, often deliberately annoys others, right? Stop doing that. Stop doing that. They continue to do it anyway. Often blames others for his or her mistakes or misbehavior, has been spiteful or vindictive at least twice within the past 6 months. Okay? Now that's on a child level. And what's interesting is that the adults who do this sort of thing, they will redirect all of what they're doing onto their children. Okay, so basically, I'm not acknowledging my part in any of this, okay, because it may even be hereditary, or the child just picks up on the parents' behaviors, and so now they're acting out, okay? But the adult doesn't want to admit that he or she is having this disorder, okay? Lots of fighting goes on with people like this. One particular individual who had a combination of many disorders, he eventually became violent with me. And those of you all who are familiar with my story from as far back as 1996, you know that that particular individual, his intention was to kill me. And great, I just praise the Lord, because people, their personality disorders can be so bad, and they're in so much denial that they want to take folk out of here. I'm not getting any help. You're the one who needs some help. But then some know that something is wrong. So what they'll do is they'll use drugs and alcohol. They will just fight up against anyone and everything. They'll do self-destructive things. I sense something's wrong with me, but I'm just going to run away from the truth. Okay. You run away from the truth, and then the truth has a way of showing up, and it can either do one of two things. It can either set you free if you allow it, or you can be the one that believes the lie and it keeps you bound, you know. So these people have opportunities. They have choices to get some help, and they can get some help for their children who are mirroring their behavior. Or they might just have it, you know, for any number of reasons. But sometimes people just refuse. That persistent stubbornness with these people with oppositional defiant disorder is what keeps them bound. Let's go over to wisegeek.com. What are the symptoms of oppositional defiant disorder in adults? That's the question, right? And we talked about that. There's also some antisocial personality disorders as well, or disorder that shows up. So the person could have more than one disorder, as I mentioned earlier. According to psychologists, some adults are difficult by temperament. This does not mean that they have a personality disorder. They can still be reasoned with. Okay, so that's key there, that there are those who don't have a personality disorder. They can be reasoned with, right? And do not go against societal norms. Oppositional defiant disorder in adults does not allow for this. So there is no reasoning, okay? And they are going to go up against societal norms. Nor do antisocial personality or conduct disorders unless there's a direct benefit for the individual. Okay, so let me reread that. Oppositional defiant disorder in adults does not allow for this, which is being able to reason and not go against societal norms. They will. Nor do antisocial personality or conduct disorders unless there is a direct benefit for the individual. Okay. Oppositional defiant disorder in adults is not a psychosis, although some behaviors appear to go against common sense. These might include defiance of authority, aggressiveness, lying, okay, being irresponsible about financial obligations and work, and a tendency to blame others for one's problems. Once again, that shows up. As of 2010, for a licensed mental health professional to make a diagnosis of ODD or antisocial personality disorder, it was recommended for the person to have shown 5 or more of the symptoms over a long period of time. Okay, notice a long period of time. Now, we're talking about this showing up with adults, mind you. Okay, we know with children, I briefly mentioned, but with adults, the symptoms would have had to have been severe enough to interfere with the person's normal functioning. Okay. So a lot of times these people with these disorders, there is something happening that affects their lifestyle. Okay. Whether it was multiple divorces, whether it was lots of stuff going on at the workplace, freaking out, tripping out, or just being difficult to work with. Okay. This oppositional defiant disorder shows itself, okay, out in the public sooner or later. Okay, this is something that a person who has this disorder, they cannot keep this in the box. Okay, it's obvious from the look on their face, from the way they behave, the tone of their voice, or them not wanting to deal with people, or when they do deal with people, they're short-tempered, they're impatient. I mean, there is no hiding this. Okay, they may have gotten away with it for a little bit, but then the next thing you know, it's coming out. Okay, family members of adults who have this problem often find themselves seeking ways to cope because the ODD individual can make life very difficult. Okay, online resources, 12-step programs, and local mental health organizations can help find support groups for people who are close to someone with a personality disorder. So if this gets to the point where you simply cannot deal with this disorder much longer, you're going to need to get some help. Okay. There is some folks who simply are out of control. They shoplift with this disorder. They will use drugs and alcohol with this disorder. They will, once again, fight. There's this severe negativity. No matter what I say to him, the wife says, or the husband says to the wife, depending on who has a disorder, it's always coming to the negative, arguing, fussing, fighting. And we're not talking about occasional disputes, right? Occasional disagreements. It's like the person is looking for any reason to disagree, to find fault with you. Okay. They have anger problems, and these anger problems aren't just with you, but with others as well. Okay. Family members usually can attest to this sort of thing. My brother was always the angry type. My sister was, oh my gosh, I can't tell you all the stuff that she put us through. You see, usually there are relatives who will say, yes, I admit my son tends to be a very temperamental, angry person. This is why his relationships don't last. And I don't blame you for breaking up with him. You see. I had someone say something similar. So that's why I could rattle that off like that. So there you have it. Oppositional defiant disorder. It shows up in adults. Please, once again, get the necessary support that you need to deal with a person like this. If you detect that you are like this, there are those programs out there and look for them. Okay. There are the online resources to help people with oppositional defiant disorder. Don't beat yourself up about it, right? If you know that you've got real issues, it is just best to be by yourself and get the necessary help rather than to put all of the dramas and the traumas and the upset on other people. First thing is to admit, right, when you have any type of issue, whether it is dealing with oppositional defiant disorder or something else, admit it and then get the necessary help. And most of all, put God first and foremost in your life. He knows you better than you know yourself. And he can move on the like-minded, those who are believers in Christ, to speak a word to you, to direct you to a resource, to pray. Sometimes there's some demonic activity going on too, stuff that we grabbed hold of many years ago. And so there is this confessing of sin and repentance and deliverance that needs to take place too. The reason why some people simply are not getting any better. And there are those who find out that they have some other issues that are going on, and it's not just about a personality disorder. And so this is where the medicines come into play. Sometimes there's the change of diet and exercise. It's just a lot that people have to do in order to feel the peace that they need. And so allow the Lord to lead you, guide you, and blessings to you. Please do check the description box for anything that might be of interest. You've been listening to YouTube NM Enterprise 7. Feel free to subscribe, like, comment. We do welcome giving. And if you would like to reach out privately, you're welcome to do so at NichollMcGuire@gmail.com. Blessings to you.